Good morning, ma'am.
Okay, so today's presentation topic is about the conjunctiva. So as you all must have gone in your anatomy class, okay, in your basic sciences class. So today's portion is basically about the anatomy, about the basic science part, okay, about the anatomy and physiology of the conjunctiva. Okay, so we'll be dealing with that and few words about the symptoms or symptomatology of conjunctivitis and the clinical signs you see in case of conjunctivitis. Okay, so today's class will generally be focused on that, and then the next class will be talking about the various types of conjunctivitis. Okay, so conjunctiva. So these are your learning outcomes. Okay, so before we start any class, we give you the learning outcomes or the objectives. So these are important from today's session. Okay, so by the end of this session, you all should be able to describe the anatomy and physiology of the conjunctiva, okay, in detail, and list out the symptoms in conjunctival diseases. Okay, so what are the most important symptoms there, and write about the signs of conjunctivitis. Okay, so these are your learning outcomes. Okay, so learning outcomes are very important. You'll have to know about this. So basically when you study, these are the important or the must know areas. Now starting with the anatomy of the conjunctiva. So as we all know, this is a mucous membrane, right? So conjunctiva is a mucous membrane which covers the undersurface of the lids and anterior part of the eyeball up to the cornea. So it's a mucous membrane. So basically it lines the undersurface of the eyelids. Okay, so you all have already, I think, undergone your lid classes. So as we all know, the innermost layer out there in the lid is the conjunctiva. So it covers the undersurface of the lids and anterior part of the eyeball up to the cornea. Cornea, it is the limbus actually, the meeting point of the cornea and sclera. So all that portion is the conjunctiva, which is basically a mucous membrane. And the different parts of the conjunctiva, coming to the different parts. So as we all know, there are three parts of the conjunctiva. So first is the palpable part. So as we can see here, okay, so which lines covers the lids. Okay, so it covers the inner surface of the lids and it is firmly adherent to it. So this is the palpable conjunctiva. So in order to see the palpable conjunctiva, you have to bring down the lower lid, okay, pull it down to a slight extent so you can see the lower palpable conjunctiva. But however, to see the upper palpable conjunctiva, you have to evert the upper eyelid. Okay, so we have to evert the upper eyelid. That means you turn it over and look for changes in the palpable conjunctiva. Okay, so that's the palpable conjunctiva, the one which covers the lid. Then fornicial conjunctiva is the fornix. So as we all know, fornix is the meeting point between the bulbar and the palpable conjunctiva. So right down here, this is the fornix. So this is the fornicial conjunctiva and it is loose and thrown into folds. And the bulbar conjunctiva is the one where you see when you look at the eye, okay, covering the eyeball, the white part of the eye, basically. When you look at a patient's eye or in anyone's eye, the white part of the eye is the bulbar conjunctiva. Okay, so bulbar conjunctiva, it goes and gets attached till the limbus. Okay, so this is the limbus here. It's a 360-degree structure. It's the meeting point of the cornea and sclera. Okay, so this is also loose, okay, the bulbar conjunctiva, except at the limbus. So at the limbus, it is attached firmly. Okay, so these are the three parts of the conjunctiva, the palpable part, the pulpar part, okay, and this is the fornix. Okay, so all three are important because there are certain things which you see in the bulbar conjunctiva which you cannot see in the palpable and vice versa. Okay, so these are the three different parts of the conjunctiva. So palpable part, fornicial part, and then the bulbar conjunctiva. Now palpable conjunctiva, you see it is from the 2 millimeter from the posterior edge of the lid margin. Okay, so it starts from the posterior edge of the lid margin around 2 mm and it is richly vascular. So a lot of blood vessels there, so it is richly vascular and it is extremely thin. and it is strongly bound to the tarsal plate. So underneath it is the tarsal plate. So it is strongly bound there and it is very thin. Okay, so the palpebral conjunctiva, you have to remember it is vascular, extremely thin and strongly bound to the tarsal plate. Bulbar conjunctiva, so as we all know, it lies in contact with the eyeball. So it covers the eyeball. It's loosely attached except at the limbus. Okay, so main thing when you see the white part of the eye, that is the bulbar conjunctiva. And it is a thin and translucent. So that's why you can see it clearly. Okay, because it is thin, it is translucent and loosely attached by connective tissue to the sclera and fascia bulbi. Okay, and all the main things that you look for in the bulbar conjunctiva is the presence of hyperemia or congestion. So the various types of congestion, which we'll be talking later in the later classes. Okay, so that's there. Then you have to look for any discoloration, like in case of jaundice and all, foreign bodies, very important, and degenerative changes, which are seen in the bulbar conjunctiva. Okay, so mainly you see two types of degenerations like pterygium and pingicola. Okay, so all this will be dealt on in the later class. And another important aspect or thing, finding that you see in the bulbar conjunctiva is the presence of Bitot spot, which is seen in vitamin A deficiency, especially in children. Okay, so that's about the bulbar conjunctiva. Okay, so that's the palpebral conjunctiva there, and that's the bulbar conjunctiva where you see all these features. Okay, so it's translucent and it is attached loosely, and mainly you have to see for presence of hyperemia, foreign body degeneration, and also presence of Bitot spots. Now coming to the epithelium of the conjunctiva, it is a stratified columnar epithelium which comprises of 2 to 5 cells, okay, in layers, 2 to 5 cells layers. And however, at the limbus, these change into stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. Okay, so at the limbus, it gets changed. And the main feature of the epithelium is that it contains the presence of goblet cells. Okay, which are very important, is that they secrete mucus or mucin layer, and they contribute to the mucin layer of the tear film. Okay, so goblet cells are important, which are found in the epithelium of the conjunctiva, and these are important because they secrete mucus or mucin, and then they contribute to the tear film, mucin layer of the tear film, and also they also have the presence of the accessory lacrimal glands, okay, which also contribute to the tear film, mainly the aqueous layer of the tear film. Okay, so the epithelium is important, and mainly you have to remember that there are various goblet cells which are present in the mucus in the tear film, and also has the presence of accessory lacrimal glands. Now, submucosa, you have the fine, delicate connective tissue present here along with the lymphocytes, and denser fibrous tissue, blood vessels, nerves, smooth muscles, and accessory glands, okay, which are all present in this submucosa. And another important thing which is seen in the submucosa is the presence of papillae, okay, which will be coming to in the later slides. Okay, so the submucosa, you have to remember it is presence of connective tissue, you have lymphocytes, you have fibrous tissue, blood vessels, nerves, smooth muscles, and accessory lacrimal glands, okay, and also presence of papillae. Now coming to, that's briefly about the anatomy. Now coming to the nerve supply of the conjunctiva, the sensory supply is by the ophthalmic and maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve. Okay, so both by ophthalmic and maxillary division of trigeminal nerve, and sympathetic is by the superior cervical sympathetics to the blood vessels. Okay, so superior is by these cervical sympathetics to the blood vessels. So the main nerve supply in sensory is the ophthalmic and maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve. And blood supply similarly, so the arterial supply is by the anterior and posterior conjunctival arteries, and venous drainage is by the palpebral and ophthalmic veins. Okay, so that's all about the anatomy. Before I go to the physiology, so you'll have to know about the different parts of the conjunctiva, okay, the various parts, what do you all look for. And then, of course, few words about the epithelium and its importance, then the submucosa and the arterial, and the blood and nerve supply. And then the lymphatic drainage, again, is very important in case of any conjunctival disease, because as you all know, some of you all must have had also in viral conjunctivitis, there may be the presence of lymph adenopathy. Okay, so lymph vessels are arranged as a superficial and a deep plexus in the submucosa, as you've all just studied. So ultimately, as in the lids, the lymph drains into the preauricular. Okay, so preauricular and the submandibular lymph glands. So in case of conjunctivitis, especially in cases of viral, you have to palpate the either the preauricular or the submandibular lymph nodes. Okay, so that's important from the viral conjunctivitis point of view. Okay, so that's about the lymphatic drainage into the preauricular and the submandibular lymph glands. So now coming to the physiology, the main function of the conjunctiva, as we all know, is since it's smooth, it is translucent, so it provides a smooth surface for the spreading of the tears. Okay, so whenever there's any rough surface in the conjunctiva, like in case of xerosis, conjunctival xerosis, and all in case of vitamin A deficiency, that will lead to dry eye. So it provides a smooth surface for the tear film to spread, for the proper spread of the tear film. So that's important. Okay, so whenever there's any disturbance in the smooth surface, that's not smooth, there's some roughness there, as I just said in xerosis, so that will lead to dry eyes. And another important thing which you've just learned is that it secretes the mucin and aqueous component of the tear film. Okay, so mucin is by the goblet cells and the aqueous component is by the lacrimal glands. So the main and the accessory are present in the conjunctiva. And on the important thing of the conjunctiva, since it's highly vascular, it supplies nutrition to the peripheral cornea. Okay, so as we all know that the cornea is a vascular structure, so main nutrition to the peripheral cornea comes from the blood supply from the conjunctiva. And another important thing is the aqueous veins, they drain from anterior chamber. And this is important for maintenance of intraocular pressure. And the lymphoid tissue, it helps in combating infections. Okay, so this is important. So all these are from the physiological aspect of the conjunctiva, or basically the functions of the conjunctiva. So you'll have to remember about the smooth surface, how it helps in proper spreading of the tear film. And since it contains of goblet cells and aqueous, this accessory lacrimal glands that's responsible for the mucin and aqueous component of the tear film. Then you have to remember about the supply to the peripheral cornea, and aqueous veins drains from anterior chamber. That's important for maintenance of IOP, and the lymphoid tissue helps in combating the infections. Okay, so that's about the physiology. Now coming to the symptoms or the symptomatology in cases of patients with conjunctivitis. So as we all know, some of us or most of you all must have had some amount of or some episodes of conjunctivitis. Okay, so it's a case of red eye. Okay, so conjunctivitis is a case of red eye, but however it is a case of painless red eye. Okay, so mainly you have those symptoms like red eye but no pain, and other non-specific symptoms like they could be lacrimation, irritation, stinging, burning, and sometimes photophobia. Okay, so all these are non-specific symptoms that you see, can be seen in other diseases as well. So that's why it is known as non-specific symptoms. And the specific symptoms are whenever there's pain, you'll have to, and foreign body sensation, but more than the foreign body sensation, the pain, you'll have to remember that it is the cornea is involved. Okay, so in a case of conjunctivitis, usually it's a painless condition, there'll be no pain. But however, if the patient complains of some amount of pain, then you'll have to look for corneal involvement. Okay, there can be some amount of peripheral keratitis, okay, involvement of the cornea in the peripheral part. Okay, so that's important. And another important thing is itching, usually in case of allergic conditions, in case of blepharitis and dry eyes. Okay, so these are specific symptoms, whereas non-specific symptoms are redness, burning, discharge, photophobia, stinging, lacrimation, all that. Okay, so these are the symptoms which are usually seen in case of all types of, or the different types of conjunctivitis. So signs, when you come to the signs, so as we all know, in case of conjunctivitis, there'll be presence of discharge. So type of conjunctival we have to look for type of discharge, type of conjunctival reaction, presence of membrane or the pseudomembrane, and lymphadenopathy. So the type of discharge that we look for are these types: the serous type, the mucoid type, purulent, or the mucopurulent. Okay, so usually the discharge are nothing but a collection or the accumulation of exudate plus debris plus mucus plus tears. Okay, so in case of serous discharge, it is the watery exudate which is seen in acute viral and acute allergic conjunctivitis. Okay, so in case of acute viral and acute allergic conjunctivitis, you see the serous or the watery exudate. And mucoid, where there's mucus discharge, in case of VKC, that is vernal keratoconjunctivitis, and which is a type of allergic conjunctivitis, and keratoconjunctivitis sicca, which is dry eyes. Okay, so in that you have the mucoid or the ropey type of discharge. And in purulent is seen in case of severe acute bacterial conjunctivitis, where there's presence of pus. And mucopurulent is pus plus mucus, and that is seen in case of mild bacterial conjunctivitis and chlamydal conjunctivitis. Okay, so discharge, the type of discharge will also give you a clue or a hint as to the type of conjunctivitis. Okay, so if it's watery or serous, that's in acute viral or acute allergic. Mucoid, again mucus in allergic and dry eye conditions. Purulent, when there's pus, is in severe acute bacterial conjunctivitis. And mucopurulent, that's pus and mucus in mild bacterial conjunctivitis and chlamydal conjunctivitis. So now those were the types of discharge. Now coming to the type of conjunctival reaction. Okay, so the various types of conjunctival reactions are present. You'll have to know about this. So first you look for presence of hyperemia or conjunctival congestion or injection. Okay, so in case of conjunctivitis, you can see the diffuse congestion all over the bulbar conjunctiva. Okay, so this is the bulbar conjunctiva, and you can see the diffuse hyperemia, which is seen in case of bacterial. Another important thing sometimes can be seen, like in this picture, you can see a darkish coloration of blood here. That is a subconjunctival hemorrhage, okay, which is mainly seen in viral, sometimes in case of adenoviral infection. Okay, so subconjunctival hemorrhage. So when you see the hyperemia, it is the blood vessels congestion and some amount of clear cornea or the translucent cornea, conjunctiva can still be seen. Whereas in case of subconjunctival hemorrhage, you see a dark patch of blood and underlying conjunctiva cannot be seen. Okay, so that's how you differentiate between the conjunctival hyperemia and subconjunctival hemorrhage. And another important thing is the conjunctival edema, which is also known as chemosis. Okay, so here you can see that there's some amount of swelling in the conjunctiva, bulbar conjunctiva, and it looks bulged out. Okay, so there's some amount of bulging. So that is the chemosis. Another important thing that is usually seen in the palpable conjunctiva is scarring, as you can see in the last slide here. That is usually seen in case of trachoma, okay, atopic conjunctivitis, and prolonged use of some topical drops. Okay, so this is scarring. So you look for hyperemia there, subconjunctival hemorrhage could be present at times, especially in viral conjunctivitis. Then you can have presence of edema or chemosis of the conjunctiva, again in severe bacterial, or usually in case of severe bacterial conjunctivitis, and scarring. Scarring is usually looked for in the palpable conjunctiva, and this is usually seen in this picture. You see it in the upper palpable conjunctiva, where you can see that the upper lid has been everted. Okay, so here the upper lid has been everted. You can see your hand here. So upper eyelid is everted, and you see the upper palpable conjunctiva, where you see some amount of scarring, which is usually seen in trachoma or cicatricial pemphigoid, and prolonged use sometimes of topical drops. Okay, so and other types of conjunctival reaction are follicular reaction and papillary reaction. Okay, so I'll be dealing with these individual reactions. So now coming to the follicular reaction, the main follicles are basically the hyperplasia of lymphoid tissue within the stroma. Okay, so basically these follicles which you see, these are the hyperplasia of the lymphoid tissue within the stroma, and they are more prominent in the fornices. So as we can see in this picture, it is seen in the fornix. Okay, so as we know that the fornix is the meeting point between the palpebral conjunctiva here and the palpebral conjunctiva. So here you can see these multiple discrete, slightly elevated lesions. Okay, so when you look at them here also in this figure down, you can see all these are follicles. So they are whitish, discrete, elevated, slightly elevated, multiple, okay, yellowish or whitish lesions, and they are encircled by a blood vessel, a tiny blood vessel. Okay, so when you look at follicles, you have to look at they are discrete, they are slightly elevated, and surrounded by a blood vessel. And size varies from 0.5 to 5 mm and usually seen in viral, chlamydial, okay, in trachoma especially is one of the hallmarks seen in cases of trachoma, and sometimes hypersensitivity to topical medication. Okay, so this is how you look for the follicles. You invert the lower lid and look for follicles mainly in the fornices and sometimes even in the palpebral conjunctiva. Okay, and the size is important, and always remember they are wide, discrete, elevated, and they are surrounded by a blood vessels mainly in scene of trachoma and viral conditions. So papillae, however, they are hyperplastic conjunctival epithelium. So these are nothing but papillae are hyperplastic conjunctival epithelium, and these are seen as red dots. So as you can see in this picture, because they have a central blood vessel, so that's why you see it as a red dot in the palpebral conjunctiva. Okay, so here you can see in the upper palpebral conjunctiva where you can see multiple red dots. Okay, so that's how we are going to differentiate between papillae and follicles. Follicles is elevated lesion surrounded by a blood vessel, whereas in case of papillae you have the presence of a central blood vessel there, and so that's why it looks like a red dot. Okay, sometimes you can see giant papillae as well. Okay, so that will be discussed in your next class. So usually papillae is these are non-specific. You can see them in a number of cases, like in case of bacterial or allergic conjunctivitis, sometimes in case of contact lens wearers where you have giant papillae leading to giant papillary conjunctivitis, similarly in chronic blepharitis and superior limbic keratoconjunctivitis. Okay, so papillae are non-specific. You see them as red dots or spots in the palpebral conjunctiva. It's mainly due to hyperplastic conjunctival epithelium. Now, another very important thing is the presence of pseudomembrane, okay, or pseudo or a true membrane. So pseudomembrane is actually a coagulated exudate which is adherent to the inflamed epithelium. Okay, so whenever there's a inflammation in the conjunctiva in form of various types of conjunctivitis, you have a coagulated exudate, and this is adherent to the inflamed epithelium, and this can be easily peeled off. Okay, so the pseudomembrane, main thing you'll have to remember in the pseudomembrane is that it has to be easily, can be easily peeled off. Okay, and causes of pseudomembranes are various types of conjunctivitis. Okay, severe adenoviral infection in case of gonococcal or ligneous conjunctivitis, and sometimes even in case of Stevens-Johnson syndrome. Okay, so these are the various types of conjunctivitis, the causes which is cause the pseudomembrane. Okay, so coagulated epithelium, you'll have to remember that a pseudomembrane can be easily peeled off. Okay, and there'll be no bleeding when the membrane is removed. So it is a pseudomembrane, whereas a through membrane, it infiltrates the superficial layers of the conjunctival epithelium. Okay, so since it infiltrates or involves the superficial layers, the upper layers of the conjunctiva, what happens is that whenever the epithelium or the true membrane is tried to be removed, or you attempt to remove it, the epithelium is injured. So because of that, that bleeding takes place. Okay, so this is the main difference between a pseudomembrane and a true membrane. In case of true membrane, whenever you'll take out or try to remove the membrane, since the epithelium is damaged, there's bleeding. Whereas in case of pseudomembrane, since it doesn't involve the superficial layers of the conjunctival epithelium, there's no bleeding. It can be removed nicely. Okay, so most of the membranes that we see in our OPD is usually the pseudomembrane, okay, because of this gonococcal infection mainly. And main causes of true membrane are diphtheria and beta hemolytic streptococci. Okay, so these are the main causes of true membrane. Okay, diphtheria and beta hemolytic streptococci. Okay, so these are the main things that you see in the conjunctiva. Okay, so these are about the anatomy, the physiology. Okay, so anatomy, you'll have to know about the various parts of the conjunctiva, physiology, the function and all, that's important. Sometimes even the layers of the conjunctiva or the nerve supply, blood supply come, okay, and physiology, and sometimes all these features. Okay, what are the things or what are the signs that you look for in a case of conjunctivitis or the conjunctival disease, starting with the discharge to the type of conjunctival reaction, okay, and then the true membrane and a pseudo membrane. Okay, so this is all about today's class. So if you all have any questions, you all are free to ask. Any queries?